From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt.
My name is Noel.
They call me Ben. We're joined, as always, with our super producer, Dylan, the Tennessee pal Fagan. Most importantly, you are here. That makes this the stuff they don't want you to know. Apologies for my intro there, guys. I'm laughing because I'm imagining how this episode will go. We travel a lot. We're just regular entities, like we were saying in an earlier episode. I don't know about you guys. I wake up at sunset just like everybody else, put my skin on one leg at a time, and venture off into the night. Like, we're approachable entities, right?
Wait, so it's sunset. Got it. Okay, venturing into the night.
Yeah, because of the, you know how it is.
Picturing your routine. Do you do a skincare regimen before you
Because
venture
you're
out?
an ancient vampire who has been around since the ages past.
Centuries.
Before
You've crossed oceans of time.
before the thing is, before you put the skin away, right, for your torpor stage, you gotta wash it first. So everybody remember that, okay?
Yeah,
just a little hygiene.
Otherwise.
It starts to smell, right? So what we're saying is we're approachable, regular entities, and we go to the grocery store like anybody else. We go by a gas station. We get the usual things. Do you guys have a ritual? Like, when you go to the grocery store, aside from diced rutabagas, do you buy
Damn, where do you get them
the
pre-diced?
same things? Matt figured it out.
Okay, wow, that's a pro tip. I love a Kinder Bueno. If I'm being honest about a thing I like to get during the checkout process. So that's a staple.
Okay, yeah. When you go to the gas station, you get a Kinder Bueno. I'll get like a bottle of water or iced coffee, if I'm filling up the tank. But let's say we're in that moment and we're walking in the grocery store or the gas station or the cafe or what have you, and for some reason you notice that everything is several dollars more than it was last week. Have you guys run into this?
Kinder Buenos are going through the roof, man. No, nothing is spared.
Well, it generally doesn't go up that quickly, right? Overnight going up $1 or $2, but people, including myself, notice that over time it seems to be going up and up and up and up and up and up by these tiny little increments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you might be in a situation where you have that moment of lucidity and revelation and light bulbs where you say, I remember vaguely hearing news about inflation, but now I'm seeing it in action. And right now, of course, the COVID pandemic is still very much in play. Some new variants just dropped. The coolest name for one of those is Nimbus, which is way cooler than Razor Blade.
God, sorry, I keep thinking of that Bush album, Razor Blade Suitcase. That is scary. What a horrible name. And like you said, Ben, I think it's describing the sensation, which sounds awful.
Yes, it sounds non-ideal. But we're this person in this moment, like you, fellow listeners, and the lockdown is lifted. Supply chains are back, and so you have that moment. You're at the counter, you're at the checkout, and you look at your coffee. I should have had a better example. I have a mason jar of coffee I made at home because I'm a cheapskate. But you ask yourself, why haven't prices returned to normal? Didn't they just accelerate because of an emergency? And aren't they supposed to go back down to something that fits my budget and allows me to survive? As we're going to find out, there is a post-pandemic price hike conspiracy, and some people think there's something much darker at play. Here are the facts. All right, the rise of the current ongoing pandemic led to serious acute supply shortages, not just in the United States, but across the planet. And we saw multiple instances of price gouging. Do you guys think this was primarily free market reacting stuff?
It's that supply chain they were talking about.
Yeah.
It was disrupted.
Yeah, how do you get all the stuff you need to create a Big Mac? How do you get all of the things? And we're not talking just the meat and the bread and all that stuff. All the supplies you need to create one of those things, right? The same with all the packaging that we talked about previously in episodes with cardboard cartels. There's also plastics involved. Think about all of the components you need to create one box of cereal that is not just oats.
I think about that pretty constantly. You're walking around in your neck of the global woods, and I think a lot of us have that moment where you say, hey, something that was used to make this, or something that is a part of this end user product, has traveled the world more than I ever will. You know what I mean? The palm oil is from Indonesia. Right? The packaging is from a factory that has a lower price point than a domestic U.S. factory. And also with the palm oil, sure, the world has agreed that orangutans suck, apparently, and should not be left alive. Anyway, this, in some cases, these price hikes are, to your points, they're a legitimate free market reaction. Sacrosanct mechanism of supply and demand. So no more
at least
shipment.
At first, right?
That's the idea. That's one of the branches.
Yo, I was just in Germany and I was in this little shop that sells like bags and stuff. It was like leather. And I, like a good American tourist was like, are all these items local? And he was like, no, there is no local leather, idiot. It all comes from India. Only he said it very charmingly. And I did not know that. And it's actually kind of counterintuitive considering how much India values the cow. It's very interesting. I don't know. Maybe I'm being hyperbolic about that. I guess I was surprised by this fact, but sure enough, it is the largest exporter of cow leather in the entire world.
That's an awesome stat, Noel. That feels like an episode. My spidey sense is tingling. We know that during the throes of lockdown and things leading up to it, members of Congress got super crooked and were definitely doing insider trading, and people on the ground, non-politicos, non-business tycoons, were saying, wait, what happened to my sriracha? Stuff like that. And then you would get a message where someone in the community would let you know you could find some sriracha, but it's going to be way more expensive. And if there are concerns about the global energy network, the constant hunger of the fossil fuel economy, you'll see that gas prices spike up and down, and they're just like pachinko, or a better pinball, like how a pinball machine bumps around.
And it's funny how certain political kind of temperature checks revolve around prices of stuff like groceries and all of that. And depending on who you ask, prices are way up, or depending on who you ask, prices are way down. They've never been this good ever. And it kind of makes your head spin a little bit.
Yeah, depending on who you ask, too, which economist, which adherents and disciples of the dismal science you ask, they might even hit you with a little bit of parkour and say, prices are way up, and that's very good. And you'll be like, not for me, man. I had to buy gas. Why do gas stations have digital readouts of price per gallon?
Well, and it's also like inflation is bad, right? When people say we're having inflation, that's not a good thing. And yet we're constantly on our other show and this show, Ridiculous History, having to adjust prices for inflation. It is a constant. It is a thing. There will be inflation.
Right. And then also deflation is bad, or disinflation. I don't want to get too into the economic weeds, but it feels like a Kobayashi Maru, which is the Star Trek reference to an unwinnable scenario. This isn't a great situation. The gas rises, the prices on everything pop up incrementally, as you were saying, Matt. The public hates it. And honestly, in most cases, businesses do not care for it either, because you might get a customer at your gas station who says, hey, why is the canned iced coffee $4 now? Sorry, Anon, I was having a bad day. I should have approached you differently. But you're not trying to make any extra money. You're, in this case, of a supply chain breakdown, you are just trying as a business to stay afloat like everybody else. What we're really talking about when we get into the malevolent aspect of this conspiracy is the concept of price gouging. I think we all know the term. Can we just kick a quick definition?
Well, I mean, isn't it just intentional manipulation of prices that would be considered in poor taste, right? I mean, it's as simple as that, kind of. Like, it's not illegal either, technically, or is it? And what constitutes it? Is it a range? I mean, aren't people always trying to make a little more, year over year? Isn't that sort of the nature of our economy is constant growth?
Yeah. It's so weird. I really like the phrase our good friend Robert Evans from Cracked and Behind the Bastards uses when he goes to a sponsor break. He's like, and now we'll hear about some goods and services. Price gouging is where some individual or institution or entity providing goods, services, or commodities skyrockets the price of something way higher than what is normally considered reasonable. And price gouging, as we know, is usually going to be short term. It's usually going to be localized, at least here in the United States. And it often happens directly after a natural disaster. It often targets basic necessities.
But again, not illegal, perhaps in poor taste. Not a good look, right?
Guys, the way I understand this is more of something that occurs at the place of purchase, the point of purchase, rather than the manufacturer making the good or service.
Exactly. You nailed it. Yeah.
Oh, it's not Nike raising the prices of the shoes. It's your local shoe store
Retailer.
today,
Yes.
right, raising the prices because there was a flood a couple days ago. Now everybody needs new shoes.
Yeah, nailed it. And I love that example. That's perfect, Matt. So consider the chaos of Hurricane Katrina, right, out there in New Orleans. Various local businesses were accused of, and rightly accused of, gouging the prices on things like food, clothing, water, shelter, medical supplies, fuel. And they were doing it because of the inherent, what we call supply and demand shock.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the demand outstripped the supply.
And can I just say, to answer the question that I posed a couple of times, there are situations where price gouging is illegal. There are anti-price gouging laws.
And we'll get to it. They're in
37
states, and they're only in times of emergency.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not completely cut and dry as to what constitutes that. There's a version of it that could probably fly under the radar.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. In peacetime, when the swords have turned to plowshares for a moment. In some places, yes, in the U.S. specifically, price gouging is a specific crime. Only during civil emergencies. But even these laws, these emergency economic laws, are controversial for some of the boffins because they'll tell you with a straight face that what is called gouging is really just people who don't understand supply and demand. And they will tell you the free market will come through for us. Very Atlas Shrugged. They'll say after things settle down, we'll get back to a state of normalcy, supply and demand, they'll balance out, prices return to their normal, predictable patterns. Yet, is that correct?
It always makes me think about hotels and just how the price of a hotel room over a one night stay can change so wildly depending on what's happening in a town or a city, over the weekend or something that's happening during the week. Or the difference when you get that hotel room like a month in advance versus time to happen. And it's just basic supply and demand stuff. But when you look at it and you're looking to get a hotel, it's wild how different the price can be.
Yeah, and that's not even with a natural disaster. Going back to shelter post-Katrina or post-Hurricane Helene, you can see egregious price rises in all surrounding states as people tried to GTFO. We see this, another example. A plane flight is not usually considered a basic necessity, but as the lockdown occurred, plane flights, just the ticket for a seat, it absolutely skyrocketed because everybody tried to get somewhere safe.
Well, in my hometown, where I'm heading to after this podcast, Augusta, Georgia, when the Hurricane Helene came through and devastated that town, when that happened, the cost of tree removal was obscene. It was obscene, y'all. Like 10x. What it would normally cost. And that's why it's tricky, because you could argue there's more trees that need removing than there are tree removal companies. So therefore the demand is so high that it warrants a price increase. But it really was in poor taste. I keep using that term because at what point does it cross over into illegality? Mm-hmm. None of these companies got brought up on any charges or anything that I'm aware of. What would that even look like?
That we know of, yeah. Like what law, under what law would these entities be prosecuted? Now, we're going to, in this discussion, we'll get to tariffs, but let's put the issue of tariffs in the modern era aside for a moment and acknowledge it's an extra variable. But for this conspiracy, which is not a theory, we are going to focus on what went wrong with the pandemic first and then get into the tariff aspect. For now, let's cast our memory back collectively. We're journeying back to the days of the lockdown and right after. And we're doing this, we're recording this in October of 2025, October 3rd. It's a lovely day here in Atlanta. The lockdown has ended, right? But people across the country, across our city, across the country, across a lot of the world, honestly, are still confronting higher prices on what seems like darn near everything. Your housing, your transit, your groceries, your healthcare, your childcare, your restaurants, your concerts, you name it. Prices rose overall 19% between February 2020 and November 2023, and there has not been a correction on that. It has not gone down. Oh, and by the way, nobody's getting a raise.
Yeah, and like a thing like cost of living raise, isn't that meant to be tied to inflation? The idea that the dollar doesn't go as far as it did last year or the last time you got one of these. And it's certainly, again, not like required that companies do this. It's sort of like a courtesy if you're lucky enough to get it.
Mm-hmm. And the shareholders may object, right? So you may end up paying the blood price of a layoff.
Yeah, according to CBS News, Americans on average are earning 1.2 percentage points below the rise in the cost of living over the past 4 years. So just underneath.
And there are, again, professional economists with way much more expertise than us who will argue that nothing is amiss. They'll tell you the market, like some mysterious animal deep in the ocean, simply moves as it will. There are a growing number of other economists, to be fair, including government experts, regulators, politicians, journalists, critics, and the public who don't buy this. Instead, they say, yeah, the pandemic did screw everything up, and yeah, COVID is definitely still around today. Shout out Nimbus. But they will tell you those businesses that were forced to raise prices amid the lockdown were not acting in good faith. Instead, they were opportunistic, predators, scavengers, taking advantage of all this pandemonium to up their profit margins under the fig leaf of necessity and then conspiring to keep those profits the same. Even as the cost of acquiring supplies decreased or returned back to pre-pandemic levels, they were like, screw you, Ben, that iced coffee is still $4. I'm sorry, I'm not making it about me. I was just mad about the coffee. Anyway, the question is, could this be true? Let's say we pause for a word from our sponsors. Here's where it gets crazy. Yes, post-pandemic price hike conspiracy. It is absolutely true. Maybe not across the board, but some companies definitely seem to have taken advantage of the situation.
And why wouldn't they? Nobody wants to give money back once they've got where they are. I can imagine that's a hard sell for the shareholders, for the brass. Well, they won't notice. They're used to it now. What, you know?
That's the idea, right? In March of 2024, I think we all read this report with great interest. The Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, which is currently closed, by the way, due to the government shutdown, they put a hit out on multiple grocery store chains in particular. This is our best example of the post-pandemic price hike conspiracy because the government proved this was afoot. Their report is called Feeding America in a Time of Crisis. Maybe we talk a little bit about what they figured out.
Well, they figured out that, yes, it was true that prices were more expensive for most grocery chains because they were paying more for the products that they were stocking their stores with. However, those individual grocery chains, many of them the popular ones that you're probably thinking of or just went to, were actually raising the prices of those goods at that point of sale much higher than necessary to cover the cost of those goods plus the operating costs of their stores.
Yeah. And this happened with blood banks as well, as a few of us know. So they never walked back that price increase, that grift that you described there, Matt. The FTC specifically names several large companies that'll be recognizable to all U.S. residents: Walmart, Kroger, Tyson Foods, Procter & Gamble, the usual suspects, right? Shout out Kaiser Sose. And earlier in 2021, the FTC had ordered these folks to give more information about their business practices. What are your operating costs? What is your usual revenue? What is your usual profit margin? And this is where we go to a statement that accompanied the report from the FTC chair at the time, Lena Khan. And it's a quote that's honestly pretty blunt from a government agency.
It sure is. So Khan said, as the pandemic illustrated, a major shock to the supply chain has cascading effects on consumers, including the prices they pay for groceries. The FTC report examining U.S. grocery supply chain finds that dominant firms used this moment to come out ahead at the expense of their competitors and the communities they serve.
So non-Falcon.
Non-Falcon.
It's very non-Falcon. It's also very like dry the way this is written, that it almost doesn't sound as like shocking as it actually is when you drill down into what's being said. It's also, like I said, it's just unsurprising.
Yeah, and they have the receipts. Because it's a grocery store joke.
Oh yeah,
they have the
I love
receipts.
the ones with the really long receipts. Is that Rite Aid,
CVS.
Walgreens, CVS? It's insane. What is even on there?
Yeah. Anytime you buy a pack of gum or iced coffee at CVS, it looks like the receipt is a very long, angry text message. It should just start first off and then go for, 2 feet? Foot and a half?
It's wild. I guess it's a survey or something. I don't know.
It is. And we're not denigrating the people who work at CVS.
They know.
They have to deal with it all the time.
That's exactly right.
How many times they have to change out that roll of paper for the receipt?
Must be massive inside those little kiosks. No, the reality is it's probably the same size as it is at other places where the receipts aren't that long. So you're totally right, Ben. It's probably a real pain.
I mean, no, maybe they have to pay more for the receipt rolls.
The blood price.
The blood price. In 2021, food and beverage retailers saw their revenue increase to 6%. Or more than 6% above their total cost. This is per the FTC's report. That was a huge breakthrough because the similar numbers from 2015 are only 5.6%. This sounds small and hair-splitty, but we'll get to why it's important. In the first 3 quarters of 2023, profits continued to rise, and sales were topping the operating cost by something north of 7%. So the FTC says we're not buying this smoke and mirror, shuck and jive narrative where the grocery stores say, oh, we things are just more expensive. I got to pay more for these pineapples. I got, this coffee won't ice itself. Know what I'm saying? Which is a perfect impression of the CEO of Kroger.
And with the price of eggs going through the roof, I can pass it half a dozen out my rear. Remember that sketch with the dude from The Sopranos? It was like on Tim and Eric.
Yeah.
Where he could lay his own eggs. That was the whole thing. Yeah.
I love it.
Do you guys think any of this has to do with some of the major mergers between grocery chains that were occurring around 2018 onward to like last year?
Absolutely.
Of course.
Because there were so many of them. And I imagine that thing that happens when a company wants to get acquired, how they will goose their numbers a little bit in order to look really good and really like you got to. This is a good company. Look how much money they're making. You're going to need to pay a lot for this.
If you own all the companies, is it still price fixing? Is it still collusion? If they're all under your umbrella,
or is it just the price?
That's what I mean. It's a little bit,
I hear you.
It's messy.
The Kroger Albertsons thing was in 2022. That was when it was announced, right? October 2022, which means there were people, executives and board members and all of those groups probably talking for over a year about the potential to be acquired, let's say Albertsons, or Kroger looking for someone to acquire. So I can only imagine that in this time frame we're talking about, there's all kinds of shenanigans going on that don't actually have to do with the prices, coming in from the manufacturers.
Right. Yeah. Like we're very bullish on AI, or in their case, we're very bullish on self-checkout, which helps us slim down the human expenses of employees. Also, it's me from the C-suite at Albertsons. I had a great conversation with the C-suite guy from Kroger over at the golf course, right? And it's insidious. Yeah.
But it's okay. We still need one human to oversee the 12 checkout kiosks. And then maybe we slim down the actual checkouts to like 3 instead of the usual like 10. Like I was at a Walmart yesterday and I think there were only 3 active checker outers. And then the rest were automated. And that was all overseen by one employee.
Dude.
Mm-hmm. Oh, one more example to dovetail on that one, just to paint the picture here. You guys may have seen it. I remember, I can't remember which country it was, but I was in an airport for a thing, and I found an Amazon store that didn't have employees. It was it was a thing where you just
heard about
walk
those.
in and then
it scans. It's like biometrics or something.
Yeah, you have to say like a little prayer to Jeff.
Right.
And then you get your overpriced pack of combos.
Special knowledge about those stores, Ben. There is one employee. He's up like above in the ceiling. Yeah. And he has a high-powered sniper rifle.
Well, I also heard, though, that in the early days of Amazon rolling those out, there was this illusion that it was all automated, but it was actually somebody like watching everybody and like entering it in manually just from a remote location. And it was like sort of like almost like trying to trick people into thinking that it was all completely automated.
Mechanical
sort of like those Tesla robots that are like remote controlled from another room.
I know that is true, Noel. And Matt, I 100% love your sniper idea. If podcasting doesn't work out, we're going to be 4 Amazon snipers. Dylan, are you in?
Well, they're trank darts, by the way.
I have a miniature conspiracy theory about this.
All right. Yeah.
So I've first experienced these in New York where you can't get in and out of somewhere without a debit card or a credit card. And I think it's to keep unhoused people out.
Really?
I agree with that. 100%. Yeah.
Whether that's the primary driver, it's certainly a positive byproduct for those in charge.
Yeah, it feels bad, man.
Yeah, it should, because it is unclean. It's like purposely putting in little dividers on benches so people can't sleep there.
Right, like the pigeon spikes, but like for humans. Yes. That's another product of the pandemic, y'all. Cashless. That really took off after the pandemic because there was this like reason to do it at the time, and then you'll notice a lot of people just stuck with it.
Yeah, because it's all eCoin now. Evil Corp's taken over. Oh wait, sorry. No, that's a fictional reality. Okay,
everything is only fiction till it's fact. Also, we are four knuckleheads who look increasingly paranoid and weird when we. Sorry, I'm looking through the various currencies and bills that I found in this jacket.
That's so much cash, Ben.
It's too much. It's suspicious. They're gonna get me.
Put some of it under your hat. Jeez.
Jeez. No, it goes in the sock. You guys don't know the game.
I do kind of hang on to euros now. Like I actually found like a decent amount, a stash in my drawer from a previous trip that I obviously was like, well, I know I've got another trip this year, so I'll just keep this. And then I end up like, having it so I don't have to deal with, getting it later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And cashless society, what a phenomenal observation. Cashless society increases surveillance, right? I would also argue it decreases the momentum of an ownership society, pushing a civilization further into subscriber mode, right? The FTC, as we said, they're not buying the grocery store narrative. And when they came out with this report, it was one of those kind of nerdy things that doesn't make a national public splash, but absolutely rocks the industry it's addressing. So trade groups like the Food Marketing Institute, what do we say about innocuous names? They represent the big chains and the wholesalers. And at first, when this came out, this accusation of conspiracy and grift, FMI said, we have no comment, as they frantically checked with their legal team and their stakeholders. But other groups really liked it. The National Grocers Association, they rep smaller indie food sellers, the co-ops, the moms and pops, and they loved the study. We've got a statement from their CEO at the time, Greg Ferreira.
Ferreira said, this study confirms what independent grocers and their customers experience firsthand. Dominant national chains, or so-called power buyers, are abusing their immense economic power to the detriment of competition and American consumers.
So
I'm sorry to be so cynical about this, but I just feel like this is how, free market capitalism is supposed to work. Like there are no checks or balances in place to prevent this kind of thing from happening.
Yeah.
So why would we expect that it wouldn't?
Right, because everything is precedent. We get how this can feel dry, sort of like our surprisingly not dry farm subsidies episode. Do you guys remember that? We all got heated up about that one.
It was so wet.
It was so wet, dog. Anyway, so the grocery store conspiracy does.
Matt made a face.
It does, because he's thinking of the word moist. The grocery store conspiracy does, per the U.S. government, appear to be true. And we get how that move from 5 to 6 to 7% over cost may seem small, but we got to remember the sheer scale of these enterprises. We're talking millions upon millions of dollars, and it's loose price fixing as well, to the earlier point about monopolies, right? If you own enough of the things that, like fingers on a hand, appear to be distinct, if you get enough of the other big players to go along with your secret game, customers don't have a realistic option. They have to figure out how to readjust their own budget and just pray to whatever god they admire that they can hold on until prices go back to normal. But then more and more industries start pulling a similar grift. We've all seen the added obscure fees at restaurants or at coffee chains or on your monthly bill, for like your phone bill. Have you guys checked out the weird, they're positively cryptic, the fees that are item line listed on your phone bills?
I should, but I don't. And I'm sure that I would be surprised at what I might find.
Oh, yeah. Dude, phone bills and your, I don't know, for me, my Xfinity bill, like anything you get internet through that ends up being bundled with other things because it's actually cheaper somehow for like 6 months to a year, and then it balloons again. You got to figure out what the heck to do at that point.
You got to call them back and learn about a new weirdly named plan. Like, oh, well, your Xfinity Signature Plus Premium, but you really want to go with Xfinity Signature Plus Premium Pro Classic Edition.
blast. They always put blast in there.
Yeah,
They're
or
really into
explosion.
blast.
Is there a level up from blast, Matt? Or is that,
I don't know.
Is that the
Prolapse.
fastest?
It's prolapse.
No,
Yeah.
man. That's when you've just been obliterated. It's so.
Yeah,
but you love
yeah.
it. So
Please fill me up, Daddy. Fill me with your glorious internet.
Give me your obscure fees.
I'm sorry, we're not.
Yeah.
Please take out "Fill Me Up, Daddy." It was for y'all's benefit. and
Oh,
no one
please keep it
else's.
in.
All right.
Gonna clip it, gonna loop it.
Gonna keep it, loop it, publicize it at the cashless Amazon store. But Matt, as you're saying, I think this goes back to our earlier point of the incremental increase, right? You can do it by adding an extra fee, adding an extra expense that's usually going to be on its own a relatively small amount of money, but it's death by 1,000 paper cuts.
It is we live in the era of death by 1,000 cuts. We live in the era of like a frog boiling. You know, it doesn't know it's dead or it's dying until it's way, way too late because of how slow and gradual it happens. It's so funny. I was talking to somebody about this, how like I literally got like rocket money so I could find some of these little things. And now I can't figure out how to cancel rocket money. And it's become one of those things. It's just outrageous. It is like this subscription fatigue. And the point is it develops such critical mass that it almost becomes like this demon in your closet that you don't want to even mess with.
It becomes another job just to keep an eye on it. It's your side gig, right?
Yeah.
Like what are these big companies trying to get me on today? You know?
Well, dude, so okay, let's talk about side gigs. Budgeting for groceries now. And when you're talking about that incremental increase, you won't notice usually if it's a couple of cents more, unless you're one of those people that I used to be, where you actually write down the individual prices of each thing. So when you're budgeting out what can I go get at the grocery store for this week, you actually can calculate the whole thing and figure it out. And I'm out the door, at this price. I stopped doing that a long time ago, but I used to do that. And I know a lot of people who still do that.
Sure. 89 cents to 93 cents as an increase, right?
Yes.
Is for a small can of tomato paste, for instance, that may seem negligible to a proportion of people, but for the folks who get that extra few pennies, that's huge because they do that millions of times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So not only are they profiting like that, you are sometimes not even going to be aware that it's happening, right? And not until you get to the checkout and you look at that final number and you go, well, how in the heck did I spend that much money? I can't spend that much money. What? Oh, holy crap. And that shock that you feel. I was listening to us talk about all this stuff and I went, man, you know what the U.S. needs? Some kind of Department of Food to regulate this kind of stuff.
Imagine.
I was like,
we had it, but they're closed.
well, yeah. So I thought, there is a USDA. There's a Department of Agriculture that can help out with this stuff. I went to their website. Have you guys seen the giant things that are written on the front of websites now for all these government agencies?
Is
it like a "we're working on it" GIF? Like under construction.
We'll give you a quote from the FTC.
I haven't seen them, so I can't wait.
Anytime, and it's going to be this similar quote from the USDA and so many agencies. The one you'll see at the top of the still free online report that we referenced earlier is this. The FTC is closed due to the lapse in funding. Learn more about the status of FTC online services and website information updates during the lapse in funding. So if you go there, you'll see that they closed, like so many other things, on midnight of October 1st, 2025.
Well, let me read this one to you from the USDA's website. Due to the radical left Democrat shutdown, this government website will not be updated during the funding lapse. The president has made it clear he wants to keep the government open and support those who feed, fuel, and clothe the American people. Look, go to I put it in the chat, Noel.
Yeah, I see it.
I believe you, brother. That is wild. That's like a true social post. That is insane.
They passed the loyalty test, right?
Yeah.
It's a real red wedding for professional
talk about
government
prolapse.
employees.
They're all up in there.
Yeah. I mean, this also these problems are going to get worse, aside from other industries doing it. We have to add to the fact here that there are multiple layoffs hitting multiple industries. There are people, fellow conspiracy realists listening to the show right now, who are tremendously skilled, phenomenally so, but have been forced to search for months upon months for a job. And we're with you. We're here. We live here. And we wish you the best. We have to also add the majority of people lucky enough to keep their employment are constantly hearing talk of furloughs, more layoffs, added responsibilities in the case of federal agencies, loyalty tests that supersede meritocracy or acumen. Forget about a promotion, a bonus, or a raise.
It's one of those things where it becomes this whole well, I'm just glad to be in the room. I'm just glad to be here. And there's no upward mobility, or there's no even promise of that anymore. People are so scared about losing this stuff or about not being able to afford to live that they're just stay the course, keep your mouth shut. Don't make a fuss.
Tying privatized healthcare to employment was a brilliant and evil move. You know what I mean? There's a really solid argument that that's part of why protest and strikes and power to the people movements are so stymied here in the United States.
Yeah.
Not great, Bob, or whatever that reference is. 80s stand-up comic voice. Let's see, what else? What if we take a break for a word from our sponsors and get further into this? Because I think there are some other industries we wanted to talk about as well.
And we've returned, and y'all, just full disclosure here, I have to pop off for a parent-teacher conference situation. Parenting, it's such is life. But this has been, thus far, an incredibly thought-provoking and galling conversation, and I'm sure it's going to continue apace. But I'm glad to be back. I've been traveling a bit, and apologies for my absence from the show, and I'm excited to jump back in. And I'm excited. We got this cruise thing coming up, y'all, this Conspira Cruise. That's next week.
Yeah. No kids allowed on that sucker.
Make sure you establish that at the conference. Principal Smith, one thing I want to be clear on is I am in international waters later, okay? So I'm sure that won't stress out the teacher, but no, yeah, it's so good to have you back, man. We were catching up off air about some of your adventures. We can't wait to share more of it with our fellow listeners. Yeah.
But is there anything you want to leave us with about your adventures before you take off?
Just an exciting show that I'm working on about the Cold War, about human trafficking, people being smuggled across the Berlin Wall from east to west. And there's also a death at the center of the story, and it involves sexual assault survival. There's just a lot going on, and I'm hosting the show and working on it and been on the road for it and also doing the music for it. And I'm going to get to do some Kraftwerky, Tangerine Dreamy kind of stuff. It's based in the exact era of music that is my utter wheelhouse. And we've got this amazing on-the-ground team in Berlin and in London, and it's a year out. So I'm very, very excited for this show. So
phenomenal. Fantastic. Well, safe travels, man.
Thanks, y'all. See ya.
And you can hear a little more about that show in an upcoming episode of Ridiculous History. Matt, you would have dug that one. It's the ridiculous history of North Korea. It's the origin story thereof.
Oh, wow.
So of course, Noel's work in this new project comes to bear in that conversation. Right now, we're talking about other industries. We're talking about problems with big laws. Like, how could you fix price fixing? How could you fix price gouging?
You punish these evil corporations. No, I don't know. How would you do it, Ben?
Oh, I'm unqualified. That's crazy. I'm basically one suit of magic armor away from Dr. Doom. So I don't think my solutions would be democratically palatable, And I wouldn't agree with them either.
Like force all of the companies that have profited from price gouging to invest that money in some kind of fund that would eventually pay for, I don't know, groceries or healthcare for everybody.
Well, what are some other, I got to ask you, Matt, what were some other industries that stood out to you when we were researching this?
Oh, the biggest one for me was the cost of construction materials.
And that's a huge one.
That's primarily because I went through the process of attempting to sell and buy houses in that time because of, personal life stuff, and just seeing how much it costs to, for me to make repairs on my house, and just to buy small amounts of construction materials to make repairs, and then how much it costs to then purchase a home. So then it became the housing market mixed in with the construction market, mixed in with all of these rising costs, and creating a huge, what I think is another housing bubble. And we're still in it currently, just kind of hanging out in these massively inflated prices.
I hope it pops real soon.
No, well, I mean, God, that's the crazy thing. You hope it pops, but what does that actually mean? And what are the consequences of that, right? Getting back, a normalization of prices often ends up meaning disaster for most of us.
Right. Because we have to remember, again, the Kobayashi Maru reference I was making earlier is nerdy, but not without sand, because deflation created the Great Depression.
Yes.
Which is still just a terrible name.
Yeah. But just, sorry, I'm not even answering your question fully, Ben. The construction sector, right? Raw materials that are purchased often from overseas that then get brought over here, and then you make, let's say, a house or a huge building that's going to house, I don't know, AI infrastructure. The cost of those raw materials has gone up something like 40%.
It's wild, yeah. You can see it. You can see it even as just a person renovating your home on your lonesome, right? You go to Home Depot, you go to Lowe's, you go to Ace Hardware. The things that you might have budgeted out or spec'd out for, your new deck, for instance. Decks need a lot of wood, right? Now the price of all those planks has absolutely escalated.
Dude, the cost of a new deck, it's not possible. It's not going to happen. Sorry.
In this economy?
Sorry. Nope.
So we're talking to someone's talking to their child. They're saying, look, yes, you could have made it to Harvard, but daddy needs a deck.
Yeah, for real. And a green egg, I guess. That was the college fund. There it goes.
There it goes. Yeah, big companies are a prime target for these accusations. And it's mainly because price gouging is a thing big companies logically love to do if they can get away with it. But we can't forget that this system is so interconnected. The price of a 2x4 or the price of a sheet of plywood, right? Or a bag of concrete mix, that goes up. And everything else goes up as well to the end user. We also can't forget individual grifters got in on this too. Matt, Dylan, do you guys remember the story of the Colvin brothers? Some of Tennessee's own?
I've never heard this.
Were they the antibacterial soap guys?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, I remember that.
Wait, what? What are we talking about?
All right, so this guy, Alan Wang, journalist Alan Wang, over at the Brown Political Review, wrote this excellent, insightful piece on the dangers of price gouging in post-pandemic America. And he opens up with the story of Tennessee's own Matt and Noah Colvin. It reads like a parable. Maybe we pull just directly from him. According to Wang, it's March 2020. The Colvin brothers gained some local, then regional, then national controversy because they stockpiled over 17,000 bottles of hand sanitizer, and they were doing the thing that scalpers do when they buy a bunch of tickets. They wanted to kick up the price, make a hefty profit. The quote goes like this: "The brothers, Matt and Noah Colvin, had driven across Kentucky and Tennessee, buying out hand sanitizer and antibacterial wipes from virtually every store they could find. Their operation, however, was almost immediately stopped by Tennessee's then Attorney General, Herbert H. Slattery III.
Amazing.
The name, Herbert H. Slattery III?
Yeah.
That feels like something you and I would make up if we were improving.
Oh, Herbert H. Slattery III.
Yeah. This goes into the legality that we were foreshadowing earlier.
Well, how did the Attorney General even stop it? What were they doing? Did they set up shop somewhere in the center of all of these stores where they bought from, and it just says hand sanitizer here?
Mm-hmm. And it's got a digital readout like a gas station.
Yeah.
And the price increases by a penny every time someone buys something. Our buddy Herbert looked into this, and Tennessee is one of those states that does have a law against price gouging during emergencies. So due to the terrible PR, due to the legal consequences they faced, the Colvin brothers eventually settled their case. And they stayed out of jail or serious legal consequences by donating all those hoarded supplies to nonprofits and to the Tennessee government. So that's one parable. That's one case where it worked out. That's a case where the law did help stop the conspiracy.
Isn't it interesting, though, because not only did all of the local shops that had those hand sanitizer wipes and all that stuff, they profited, right? At the moment that the Colvin brothers purchased it. Then, through all of this, the government itself profited because it was like they got it for free.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, right? So it's just a grift on down, and you kind of have to figure out which grift is most ethical to you.
Which grift is going to be more okay with the powers that be?
That's another way to put it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is one case in a vast ocean. If we combine this with the good old-fashioned inflation of the pandemic era, which hit 8% inflation in 2022, that's the highest since the 1980s, we see that price gouging on small and large levels through multiple industries absolutely wrecked people's day-to-day lives. It accelerated the cost of living to such a cartoonish degree. But the legal beagles are going to say a national anti-price gouging law would allow much more leverage in investigating this shenaniganry. But the laws as they exist now are state by state. If you think your Kroger or Albertsons or whatever is ripping you off, the law that might help you or the law you could refer to only applies in a time of crisis, only during an emergency. So if there's not stuff going wrong, these laws don't matter. They may have well been just traced into the water of a rising tide.
All you need is an official emergency then. All you got to do is declare that, I don't know, there's domestic terrorism occurring in cities across the country, and it's a state of emergency.
And asking how terrorism is defined is itself an act of terrorism and sedition.
Yeah. So, but all you need to know is that it's an emergency. Okay. That's all you need to know. And these companies can charge whatever they want because we're in an emergency.
And we're not taking questions, by the way, because did you guys not just hear us say it's an emergency? We're in a hurry.
We got to go.
Bananas are $10. Just deal with it. This conference is over.
Good luck. Stay safe.
Right. And God bless America. These laws have been used to help consumers. We know that New York cracked down on a couple of people, notably Hillendale Farms, because they had raised prices on eggs right at the beginning of the pandemic. And this lawsuit, similar to the Colvin thing, resulted in a settlement where Hillendale Farms said, all right, we're going to stop ripping people off on eggs. We're also, get this, going to donate 1.2 million eggs to food banks across New York, the state. That's kind of cool, but also reminds me of, God, where were we? Where was I? Okay, so Matt, do you remember when eggs were gold, apparently?
This year or during the pandemic?
During the pandemic.
Yeah. No, I do. And now if you go and look at the price of eggs, it really is insane. And it's so funny how it becomes an ethical choice in some way because of what we learned about factory farming. We all of us learned about what it means, right? So then you want to make the choice to buy eggs that have those words on them, like free range or
cage free.
Yeah, you want to do that, but then you realize, that's like $7, $12 for 12 eggs. How could I possibly afford that and make that make sense for me?
And the producers are often being purposely misleading with those phrases. If your day is going too well, if your evening's going too well, folks, check out our Farm Factory episodes.
Or or just don't, because so many of our episodes are just straight up downers. But we always try and put this little positive thing in the end.
Sure.
But sometimes it's just, it's kind of like this episode for me. I don't see a way to force companies that engage in this kind of price gouging, and even if it's not officially price gouging, it's inflating their own prices artificially, because it's going to be way better for them on a quarterly basis, or it's going to be way better for them in some kind of merger or acquisition deal in the near future.
Right. And I love that you're bringing that up, because here's why it's a sticky wicket, folks. Here's why people have to be careful about the legislation. It becomes a bag of badgers incredibly quickly. Price gouging laws, which would be defined as government regulation on how much a good or service is allowed to cost, usually putting a ceiling on it, right? That is a huge hot button issue. Companies obviously generally hate this idea. Makes sense from their perspective. They got to pay the blood price every quarter, but a ton of consumers are also icked out by this, because it can be seen as a slippery slope into a world of Big Brother encroaching on the market. It could become a distant cousin of a command economy, which leads to rationing and privation. I'm not saying that it's absolutely correct, but I am saying I get where they're coming from.
Well, yeah, because it ends up putting constraints on the folks that actually generate the food, right? Or whatever it is. But the people who own the farms, who actually have the chickens and take care of the chickens that get the eggs. And now you can only sell those eggs for a certain price, and you can only make a certain amount of money, right? No matter what happens. Unless you get government subsidies, which again, go to our subsidies episode. Was that part of that? Farm subsidies?
Farm subsidies. Yeah. Which still, like, if you haven't heard it, you're not ready, by the way. Just dive in blind. We promise it's not as boring as it sounds. You'll be kind of upset at the end, actually.
Yeah. Well, and I think the problem with regulation like that is because it is all this connected ecosystem, and each part affects another part, and the whole thing, if you alter it just a little bit and you try and do something like put a ceiling on the price of something, it's going to affect everything else down the line, which then makes another problem that somebody has to step in and fix.
Yeah, it's like pooping in the ocean. Beat me here, Dylan. That goes somewhere else. Great. Best, I can't believe it. We can vote. Jeez. All right. Well, we know exactly what you're describing there, Matt, because during the last presidential campaign, the then Vice President Harris floated the idea of national price gouging laws. She was also adamant, like so many others in Washington, that this could only apply during an emergency, because everybody kind of agreed tacitly that a non-emergency peacetime price gouging law could really complicate, as you described, an already unwieldy economic structure.
Because that's how we do things around here.
Just Band-Aid it. Just Band-Aid. Ship a thesis, this thing, all the way to the horizon.
I'm just saying temporary price gouging is just how the sausage is made.
The game's the game. You know what I mean?
What are you going to do?
The game's a game. So most economists also, despite their differences, which are quite strident at times, they concluded a plan like what the Harris campaign proposed probably wouldn't work. Also, in that it would not lower grocery prices. It's so difficult to claw back those tasty year-over-year profits. And if the religion of capitalism has a prime commandment, it's that profit shall increase at a constant rate, quarter over quarter, year after year, by hook or by crook, one way or another.
Well, because you need dividends. What would the shareholders think if you did not increase quarter over quarter? Well, and that mostly applies to public companies that are big enough to be, shared within the stock market, where everyone gets a bit of that sweet, sweet ownership.
I picture we might get in trouble for this one, but just fictionally, I'm picturing the shareholders who are often on multiple boards, right?
Yeah.
The board members. I'm picturing them as purposefully not being experts nor particularly intelligent. Like they're a class, like Eloy and Morlocks in the Time Machine. They're a class that's been bred to just agree to this crazy grift. So the CEO walks in and says, all right, we've got our Q3 numbers, and then it's a bunch of very strange Habsburg-looking baby people, like were-babies, and they're just going, where are my divvies? Where are my divvies?
Where's my divvies?
You got to get them their divvies.
Dude, I know. I was imagining the folks over at, what was the name? Hargill Farms? Is that what?
Yeah.
Hillendale Farms. And they're like, oh, man, guys, Vita Farm is on the line, and they're looking to acquire another company. Like, oh, I got Cargill on the line over here. They're looking for a company. Oh, man. Oh, what are we going to do? We got to raise the price of these eggs a little bit. We need to get the profits up by at least 1.5% by next Wednesday. Just like, what?
Oh, no, the Habsburg baby's calling.
Oh,
he wants his divvies.
Oh, no.
Oh, man, I hope I hope that surely after all these years, that's not the joke that's going to black bag us. But we do have to take a moment here. We have to emphasize this is not a hit piece on small business owners, right? Just like how the U.S. socioeconomic hierarchy has a pyramid structure with a very few people at the top doing very well and most other people encountering some degree of challenge. Industries have that too. Industries have strange pyramid structures, and if you are the owner of a small business, first off, congratulations, and we wish you well. We know it's a very difficult environment. We also know that you're often going to be struggling to keep your head above water as the big dogs relentlessly leverage power to drive the smaller operations into extinction or, like you said, Matt, buy them out completely.
Yep.
And this leads to things like food deserts. This has knock-on consequences. We know there are various predatory processes that predate the pandemic, but it's no secret the pandemic massively accelerated these conspiracies, these shenanigans, this big business corruption. I mean, businesses won big during the pandemic, and they did so at the cost of the average customer, which leads us to, I don't know, Matt, what do you think? A couple things we can laundry list toward the end here?
Yeah. I'll give you one.
Okay.
Changing climates. And the way a lot of food crops in particular have been affected, everywhere from Brazil to Mexico to places where a lot of American produce is produced.
Eastern Europe as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The African continent. Yeah.
That kind of thing, when crops are destroyed and now you don't have as much, then the prices of those crops, those goods, when they get sent somewhere else, become more expensive, right? What do you say? We've already got that issue happening. What if there was a problem with, shipping costs?
Yeah, there we go. Yes, because what we're seeing is compounding factors. That's a great point. Yeah, we mentioned tariffs briefly at the top. And like Jack White said once upon a time, I said it once before, but it bears repeating. Learn more in our episode, The Trouble with Tariffs. That was from March, I think, of earlier this year. And that's one of the big, divisive, controversial additive shipping cost, right? It's directly impacting end users, even as arable land is increasingly less arable. This is all pressing domestic companies. Those costs roll down the hill to consumers buying their stuff, just like when you're looking at house construction, as you said. Logically, this makes a second opportunity for price gouging. This has not been conclusively proven yet, but I would say, Matt and Dylan, all of us at home, it is not unreasonable to assume at least a few companies will act on the opportunity if they have the means. Or let's imagine there's a tariff that increases the material cost of something like steel, and you're a company that builds stuff from steel, and you say, oh, our price went up X%. So to make money, we would have normally sold this for a Y% increase, but now, guys, Q3 numbers are coming up. Let's sell it for Z% and just see how long we can let it ride.
That's the way to do it.
I think that's what's happening. And I like that we're using our sexy radio voices on that one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Think of the Porsches, man.
You're listening to The Quiet Crisis.
Motion.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Blood Price. And then we got to mention shrinkflation. I'm still so Larry David level irritated by this, where prices appear to stay the same, but the amount of actual stuff you're purchasing gets smaller and smaller. Do you guys have examples of that you ran into?
I don't know.
Cereal boxes. Do you guys mess with cereal?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's weird because there's like giant size now, and you just can't really get some cereals in a container that makes any sense.
I'm genuinely racking my brain. If there's, I know we've talked about several examples in the past that have been alleged, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's one. I don't know if there, orange juice. I know for a while there, I thought I was buying the same amount of orange juice when I'd bring it home because my son loves it. But it was a smaller container, and I had no idea because it looked really similar when it's all lined up in the shelf like that.
Incremental changes. Yeah. Or even if you look at the bottom of some, especially with beverages, the bottom of some of those, the little scoop at the butt is going to be bigger so that there's actually less juice. Now, currently, at least back when they were open, the FDA required, I hate that we have to say that, the FDA required manufacturers to put the actual measurements on stuff, but they're not a big part of the branding. So you have to actually pick it up and look and say, oh, this used to be 12 ounces. Now, for some reason, it's 11.3. And that's happening across the grocery store.
If you head to the FDA website, fda.gov, it says mission critical activities of FDA will continue during the Democrat-led government shutdown. Please use the site as a resource as the administration works to reopen the government for the American people.
Cool. Go hustle, guys. Thanks.
Not politicizing anything about that. Nope. It's fine.
But congrats on passing that loyalty test.
Yep.
So there is one scary thing. I don't know if we've really gamed this out, and I don't know how many of us have thought about this, but price gouging had an extra hidden cost that went well beyond finances. It literally spread COVID. This is the most lethal, if unintentional, hidden cost of the conspiracy. So let's think about it. Various groups or companies are gouging prices. Consumers who have the means decide to travel to another place. Maybe you live in a neighborhood that has 2 grocery stores, and you say, this is way too much for a pack of bacon. They're also selling less bacon than they used to, so I'm going to go to the other store across town, right? I'll get bacon there. What this means is that people are traveling more to logically search for alternatives, which means they rapidly increase their chances of both contracting and spreading COVID-19.
Hopefully that wasn't what they were going for.
Hopefully it was not the intent. You know what I mean? We can forgive a up. We just don't like to forgive malevolence.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not cool. Well,
Yes.
man, what if that was the plan? We'll use the grocery stores.
Yeah, and it's so straightforward, right? Nothing mousetrap or Rube Goldberg about that. But it's still, no matter what their intent, it's very non-Falcon of them. I mean, this tells us it is provable that price gouging practices, whatever the intent, did have a cost beyond financial profits of corporations. It was a cost in human lives. That's a debt that you can't really repay. I don't know.
Yeah.
We're fun at parties. I mean, but what happens, Matt? Do we push for a law that says this thing, these eggs, can only be this price forever and ever and ever? Amen.
No, you can't. I don't think you can do that, man. I don't know how you fix this, and I don't even have some fun, silly, creative way to do it. I genuinely don't.
I feel you. I remember I was in, I must have been in Europe at that time. Maybe I was kicking around Belgium during the egg crisis, or as you said, one of the egg crisis moments.
Yeah.
And I remember being stunned and having it's like a kid who leaves the cult compound and learns there's a better world outside. I remember walking into a supermarket, and in Western Europe generally is going to be more expensive than a lot of parts of the United States. And I had this thought, Matt, Dylan, in my inner monologue, I remember thinking, these people are so loose with their eggs.
Oh my.
It didn't apply anywhere. Like, the United States concern was not universal, was not global. It makes me wonder whether the problem had been manufactured for a profit motive and a conspiracy.
Well, maybe. I did find a solution, and it's because of something you said, Ben. You start a cult compound. That's how you get around all this. Or, I mean, excuse me, a community. A small community of you and like-minded people. Others who agree with the same stuff. You start a cult, and you buy some land, and then you just make your own eggs and milk and all other necessities. You chop down your own wood, and you do it sustainably by planting more trees. And you could do this. You don't get things like the internet and stuff like that, and that's fine.
Well, yeah, it's funny you say that, Matt, because that we all admire self-reliance, right? That is also kind of beat for beat what Kim Il-sung said when he founded the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. And it worked out for a while.
That sounds amazing. I'd like to check that place out.
Yeah. Oh, my God. All right, we got to end this. This is the issue. The brightest minds of the dismal science are worried that legal means to enforce regulations on accusations of price gouging during peacetime, during non-emergency situations, will wreck the economy, cause deflation, maybe another Great Depression. But we have to ask at this point, is there not already an emergency afoot? Not counting the false flag stuff that is probably on the way, right, to prevent the next election, not counting that stuff, is there not already a silent disaster? It's not as cinematic as a hurricane or a tornado. It's taken a longer amount of time, but small towns are dying. People are going hungry in this country. Education is going into the toilet. And I would say it is a silent emergency, but an emergency nonetheless. I don't know, man. I don't know how we're going to feel about this one 5 or 6 years from now. What do you think?
Well, when the food starts getting divvied out in portions, because we're in that big grand emergency that we're all kind of just holding our breath until it comes. When that happens, I think we'll look back at this and say, oh, remember the fanciful times of price gouging and how great that was?
Guys, remember we used to have those fun hangouts where we would all get in the car together back when it was legal to drive, and we would try to find the grocery store with the cheapest eggs?
Yeah. And it was a struggle to figure out how to pay for some of those essentials, but at least you could get them. And at least they weren't, rotten.
Yeah, it's not necessarily when the prices skyrocket It's when the price doesn't matter because the thing is not there.
There you go.
Shout out to various crises in Latin America. Everybody's listening here affiliated with Venezuela. Be safe.
Dude.
There's a coup in the wind, and I know we've been tracking that pretty closely.
Yeah. And not just there either. Mm-hmm. And if there's not an active coup happening from an outside source, the young people are starting to get pretty angry across the world.
Yeah. And the world is ending for someone somewhere every day. This is going to be the end of our show for now, for this episode. Are there certain entities and institutions benefiting from this silent disaster? Yes. That is the stuff they don't want you to know. And you know what we want to know, folks? Your thoughts, your opinions, your inspiration for previous episodes, your experience on the ground in your neck of the global woods. What do you think? Let us know. You can find us online at all the usual social medias, thou may sip. You can also call us directly on a telephonic device.
Use that device to translate this into numbers. 1-833-STDWYTK. When you call in, find yourself, if you will, in a quiet place. Find yourself in a good space to tell us what you think. Give us a suggestion for another episode that's related to this topic. What else do you want to learn about? What do you think about this stuff? Anything you want to say, call and tell us. If you'd instead like to write us an email, we are
the entities that read each piece of correspondence we receive, so long as literacy remains legal. Be well aware, yet unafraid, sometimes the void writes back. We can't wait to hear from you. We've got so many random facts. If you want to learn something useless for your next shindig or soiree, just hit us up. We're here till the lights go out. Conspiracy@iHeartRadio.com.
Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.